Hello, and welcome to another episode of All Around Town. My name is Roger Wilson, and I'm the Director of Government Policy. Thank you for joining us today. Our guest is Tom Watson, the Burgess of Rosemont. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you very much, Roger. I always enjoy talking to you.
Yeah. So what's going on out in Rosemont?
Well, as you know, Rosemont's a very small community that became a community for the sake of controlling our zoning, and it's zoned all residential, where we have very small boundaries. We're right on the edge of Brunswick, and so there's really not much going on.
Yeah. And so you mentioned on the boundaries of Brunswick. Tell us geographically for the viewing audience, where is Rosemont in Frederick County?
Okay, if you look at the northern boundary of Brunswick, which is Souter Road and Route 17, sure. Rosemont is north of there, and it runs along Petersville Road down to the Catoctin Creek, which is at the Lions Maryland Park. Mm-hmm. And to the east, it goes as far as the car wash on Souter Road, and to the west, it goes just before the firehouse on 17 and then over to Rosemont Drive.
Mm-hmm. And roughly how many residents live in Rosemont?
There's approximately 300. There's just a couple over 100 houses in Rosemont. And mm-hmm. There's not many lots of record that don't have a house on them. So I don't think there's been a new house built in Rosemont in the last 10 years.
In the last 10 years, no willing developers to come in and...
There's nothing to develop.
Nothing to develop, okay.
Well, there are two areas. There's a farm that is off of Petersville Road, but the logistics to developing that farm are kind of difficult because of access and because the farm would have to perk. And as my understanding it years ago when they thought about subdividing, they had trouble getting to perk.
Mm-hmm. Now I understand that you recently just had an election.
Yes, we did, and I was reelected along with the 4 commissioners. So for 2 more years, we basically have the same people that are in charge.
So you mentioned 2 years. Is your charter written that you have? Our
charter is written that the Burgess and the entire commissioners will be reelected every 2 years, and the election in the charter will take place on the first Saturday in May. In May.
All right. So it's the Burgess, and then you have how many commissioners?
4 commissioners.
4 commissioners.
Yes.
All right. And who are they?
I have John Leach, mm-hmm. Joe Wiles, Steve Harshman, and Dave Blackman.
And Dave Blackman.
Yep.
Okay, very good. And they've also have served how many terms now?
Steve Harshman has served on the Rosemont Commission for 27 years.
27 years, wow.
And Joe Wiles has served for 20. Mm-hmm. And he's starting his 21st year. Dave Blackman has served, I believe, 3 terms or maybe 4 terms. Mm-hmm. And John Leach has served, I think this is his 3rd term.
And what about you?
I was Burgess in the 80s for 2 years.
Burgess in the 80s.
And then because of my schedule at work, I got uninvolved. I got re-involved with it again, I guess, around 2005 or 2006. So I've been Burgess for the last 5 years, and I've just been elected for 2 more.
Very good. Well, I guess that the residents had a lot of confidence in you to re-elect you.
Well, you know, the big issue in years past was the water system.
Right.
And I was in charge of the committee to deal with that and saw it through to its completion.
It's a very important issue.
Which turned out to be very, very satisfactory, thanks to the county.
Good, yeah. So what else is going on around Rosemont? Is there any economic development?
No, there's really no room for any economic development because we're zoned all residential, so there are no businesses. There's one church and the Lions Club building, and everything else is a residence.
So any recreation parks that?
Well, we have Lions Maryland Park, which is, the park itself is actually a state park. And we maintain the park. It has a pond that is stocked by the state with fish, and we have the picnic area, the picnic pavilion, and there's a playground for small children. And that's open to the public for anybody. It's a state park.
And so do a lot of cars, visitors pass through Rosemont?
Too many.
Too many.
Yeah, that's the biggest complaint that I hear from the residents is speeding through Rosemont, because it is a direct route to Frederick. There's two ways to go to Frederick from Brunswick. You can come out and go out 17 and go around 3 circles to get on 340, or you can go out Rosemont Drive and hit Petersville Road and hit 180 and get on 340 with no circles.
With no circles.
Yeah.
Okay.
So speeding on Petersville Road has been a big problem. And that's one of our larger budget issues right now. We contract with the Frederick County Sheriff's Department to work radar in Rosemont for 4-hour blocks. And last year we had contracted for 50 4-hour blocks of radar enforcements. This year, starting July 1st, we'll be contracting for 75 4-hour blocks. So we increased it by 50%.
It's interesting that you mentioned the budget. You know, what was the budget process recently with you all?
Well, our charter says that the Burgess will prepare the budget and present it at the March meeting, and then it will be voted on at the May meeting. However, there's never a May meeting because that's always Memorial Day, right, because we meet on the last Monday of the odd month, which May is an odd month. So we always meet the first Monday in June, and then the budget is approved. So it's the preparation of the budget's pretty much up to me. And it doesn't change much.
Any additions or subtractions from last year's budget?
The big addition this year was adding another 25 4-hour blocks of speed enforcement to the village.
Because that's the biggest complaint or issue.
That is the biggest issue right now, right?
Okay, all right. Where does Rosemont look like 10 years from now?
Well, I moved to Rosemont in 1946, and it's not much different than it was in 1946.
Okay.
I don't foresee much difference 10 years from now. As long as we're able to find people that are willing to serve as Burgess and commissioners, and we maintain our residential zoning, I don't see Rosemont annexing anything, because there's nothing for Rosemont to gain by annexing. The taxes, our tax rate is 4 cents.
4 cents
for the town tax, and the other sources of revenue are income tax. We get a share of the income tax from the state. We get real estate. We get 4 cents, and then we get tax equity. Shared equity from the county, which pays for the maintenance of our park and to help us with our police enforcement.
Now, well, how you have a partnership with Brunswick, right? I mean, there's some, I guess, when you want to go to the grocery store, where do you go?
Frederick.
Frederick. So you come to Frederick?
Well, Brunswick hasn't had a grocery store for 5 years.
Right. Okay.
Hopefully, not hopefully, I see it. The walls are up.
Yes.
There's going to be a new Wise come out in Brunswick,
Good.
at Brunswick Crossing, and it's supposed to be open by Thanksgiving. And I know everybody in Rosemont and Brunswick is going to be relieved, because 5 years without a grocery store, we've had to either run to Frederick, Charlestown, or Purcellville for groceries. Thank goodness the dollar stores, there's 2 dollar stores in Brunswick, and they've sort of stepped up with staples. But fresh fruits and vegetables and things like that they don't have. So it will be really nice when the new Wise opens in Brunswick. But Rosemont has a good relationship with Brunswick. As a matter of fact, if anybody asks me where I'm from, I usually say Brunswick because that's what people have heard of. They don't.
That's the closest.
They don't really
proximity.
know much about Rosemont. And I was at the DMV the other day renewing my driver's license, and they had two addresses for me. One of them was Knoxville, and the other was Rosemont. And they said, which one is these correct? I said, well, both of them. I said, because Rosemont doesn't have a post office. I said, Knoxville did have a post office, and they delivered the mail in Rosemont. But Knoxville doesn't have a post office anymore, so everything goes to Brunswick. But as long as you have the zip code 21758, you can put Rosemont or Knoxville.
Well, good. Well, thank you for coming in today and telling us all about what's going on in Rosemont. I appreciate it. This is your second time on the show. So,
Yes, it is.
So thank you again for that. And hopefully we can get you back on.
Always glad to come by.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
So that wraps up this show. We look forward to seeing you all around town.